Hey guys, and welcome to the tutorial for second and third year friendship bracelets for PFO. So I'm going to start off first with second year bracelets. First off, when making second year bracelets, you're going to want to get 3 orange strings and 2 green strings. Something I'm not sure if I mentioned in the previous video about first year friendship bracelets, which if you have not seen that yet, please go ahead and check that out. In that video, I'm going to go over all of the basic tying techniques, which I won't get into as much in this video. So please make sure you go and check out that video first before you move on to these. So, with second bracelets, like I said, 3 orange strings and 2 green strings. I already have cut them out here. I usually also do them pretty long. I talked about this in the previous video, but you'll figure out how long you want your strings to be as you go along. I can't fit the entire string into this shot. I wish I could, but I guess sort of folded like that. It's about that much. But yeah. And also, when you're first tying it, try to make sure that all of the strings line up with each other. It just looks nice, and it's less work for you in the end too, instead of having to try to cut off bits and pieces that aren't lined up. Near the end of the string, after you've made your bracelets, they won't always be matching completely. Try to get them to match as close as you can while you're cutting them, but in the end it'll never always be the same, so that side you'll have to cut more, so always keep that in mind. So here I'm going to make the tie again, just about like 2 inches, about that much. And pull it through. Make your tie. And the thing with second year bracelets is it's honestly exactly like first year bracelets. You do the exact same things, the only difference is now that there's 2 different colors. So I'm going to take my tape that I used before, put it on here. And when you first start, make sure that your colors are in this order specifically. You're going to want to go orange first. Oh. Here I'm going to use this string. Sometimes there's better strings to start off with in the pattern than others. You can just generally tell by how you've tied it. So you're going to want to do an orange string, and then a green string, then another orange string, another green string, and then let's see, another orange string. So it's just every other string is a different color like this. Eventually you're going to get 2 orange strings next to each other as you go along with this. Just as long as your 2 green strings are separated by orange strings, everything will be alright. So don't worry about that. I'll show you about it a little bit later on as well. So as we start off exactly as we did in the other one, where we make our 4. This is the second string. The first string goes underneath and goes over. Pull it underneath, from underneath, and pull it straight up. And then do that twice. Pull it up. There you go. And then leave the green string over because the orange was your first one. Sometimes it's easier to tell which string you're on with this one just because there's different colors, and that helps your mind. I know it does for me. I always like these better than the first years. So do it again. Like I said before, at the beginning of the string, it'll always look really funky near the top. Just trust yourself, keep going. I sometimes pull on the strings to make sure they aren't interfering with others up here, and that helps a lot. The beginning is always the hardest part, so once you get through that, it'll be easy again. Now I'm tying it onto the third string. And the fourth. Alright. Now you'll have your strings like that. Like I said before, you're going to have 2 orange strings right next to each other, but as you can see, the 2 green strings are still separated by orange, and so you're alright. I think having the green strings here helps you remember at least like which order everything's in still, unlike the orange ones. when it's straight orange, it's sometimes a little hard to tell. So I guess that's the advantage of second year bracelets. So I'm going to go through it one more time, let you see what I'm doing. It's the exact same as the first year ones, so if you're having trouble catching on to how I'm tying it, remember to go back to that first year bracelet tutorial, and you can pause and play it however many times you want. Alright. Did I do two there? Yeah, I did. Okay. Also with this, you can sort of start to see much easier the spaces between which strings you're tying, and it's easier to see if you've tied it twice or just once, because sometimes it's easy to forget that. You can sort of just look up here. I don't know how well this camera is really going to be able to capture that, but I'll probably just make a few more rows going down and try to show you again. But when you go through, it'll start making a candy stripe kind of coloration. I'm going to go ahead and make a few more rows and then get back to you. Alright, I'm back. I've made a little bit of progress here, as you can see. Here, I'll pull them out into the 5 strands so you can see again. It's back at that original pattern where it's orange, green, orange, green, orange. As you can see, sort of near the top, it'll go like 2 close green stripes and then a long space in between, and then 2 close, and then a larger space, and then 2 close. That's because you're going to tie 2 orange strings at the same time through here. And so you want to make sure that it does look like that. Depending on which way you're tying the strings to, if you are doing the 4 that goes over first instead of under, the stripes might be the opposite way. Don't worry about it, just as long as you've got candy stripes going along down like this with a large orange space between every 2 green. You're good. So as you go along with this bracelet, you just continue doing the same things that I've showed you before in this tutorial and in the first year's tutorials. I'll go through it one more time. Just make 2 knots on every string and go along from left to right, tying that first string around each string as you go along. And as you can see here, I'm making sort of a long pattern area because I had just finished tying this string and now I tied this string, and so now we have a long orange area. And so then, once you're near the end of your bracelet, once again, you're going to want to leave about from the shortest string, which is this one right here, so you can see, probably see, I don't know how well this camera is doing. Anyway, from there you'll want to have about 2 inches. Then you're going to tie it. I'm going to let this tie. I'm not going to do that right there. I'm going to do it up here like I did in the other video, so you can see it being tied off near the top, or near where you finished doing your bracelet. So I'm going to pull it tight. You can double knot it if you want to. I generally don't. There's not much need to. Then you'll cut it off about there. And then you'll have your bracelet. Definitely longer than this one, but I guess this could be a good keychain or something. So that's it for second year bracelets. I'm going to move on to third year bracelets now. Let's take this out. Now with third year bracelets, I'm going to show you a new technique for tying it. Third years, I generally tend to do the loop, where when I cut the string, because what you're going to want to have is 2 orange, 2 blue, and 2 green strings in the 3rd year. Instead of cutting 2 strings of each, I just cut one very long one of each one. So then I just have 1 string of orange, 1 string of blue, and 1 string of green. And then I take the 2 tail ends, make sure they sort of match up a little bit near there, and pull it. Sorry about that. I think I just hit my mic a little bit. Anyways, so take the 2 end strings, or the 2 sides, put all the end strings together, pull it, and then you're going to have this little loop at the top. And so then this loop is going to be where you start it. You're going to tie off that loop, and you're going to have these short cut strings at the end, and they're going to tie into the loop. Generally, that's just a prettier way of doing it. If you want to do that with the 1st and 2nd year strings, please go ahead and do that. I just generally in the past, out of laziness or something, have not done it this way, but until I get to the 3rd years. But it's completely fine to do this way for the 1st or 2nd years as well. So then we're going to tie this loop. That's a little bit more space than I generally give for a loop. Generally I make it a little bit shorter, instead of right there, maybe right about there. You don't need as much space for the loop because you just need to be able to get the end strings through it and to be able to tie it around it. But that's alright for this. This is still completely fine. I'm going to tape it down here. So with this one, you're going to want to have the 2 strings next to each other of each color. So you're going to want to have orange first over here, then green, and then blue. Let me separate those a little more. So you're going to want to have it in this. So orange, green, blue. Once again, with tying this, it'll be the exact same as you did with the 1st year and the 2nd year bracelets. The only difference here is now you have 1 extra string that you have to tie. It's not that big of a deal. 3rd years do tend to take a little bit longer just because of that, but it's obviously not that big of a deal. So I'm going to go ahead and start tying these off. I'm not going to say too much about how I'm tying them because you can go back and see the 1st year video or look at the 2nd year ones too. I feel like repeating myself too many times gets a little monotonous. But so as you can see, it's really messy up there near the top. You just gotta glide through it, man. Like, it's hard to sort of see what's happening up there. Just like trust that everything will work out. Keep your strings very separated and you'll be alright. Just to get through like the first 2 or 3 passes through is all you really need before it sort of straightens itself out. Alright. So we're here. Give me a second, I need to do something. Alright, sorry about that jump there. My camera was dying. It happens. So I'm keeping them very separated because at the top it's still being really weird. I like to pull on the strings in between doing these at the beginning, and then just like sort of try to push the strings that I've already knotted up a little bit. You know, in the end that doesn't help too much, but it eases my mind, I guess. So if you want to do the same thing, go for it. But yeah, As you can see, they're getting real wonky up there. It's just, it's a mess. Keep them out and separated back down near the bottom, and then you can always figure out what's up. I'm gonna let you guys continue watching me do this for a little bit so you can see like what's happening as the top area gets better. We'll sort of start seeing it make some sort of sense. We'll go through the 2 greens, and then I'll do a little bit of work off camera so you can see how the bracelet's going to look, and then that'll be the end of this tutorial. I'm just gonna do this. Once again, just to iterate what I was saying before, it's really important to make sure that all of your strings are separated. This is really the only way that you're going to be able to tell what's happening, especially in the beginning when you're less acquainted with making friendship bracelets, because it gets confusing and it can seem like you're doing something wrong. But as long as you know where you are and have all of your strings separated, don't worry, you're doing fine. You'll get through it. Alright, I'm just going to do this last green one here, and then I'm going to do a little bit of work off camera. As you can see, it's sort of starting to take shape up there. It's a little easier as I'm going along. Also, just a thing about mistakes. When I was making the 2nd year bracelet earlier, I messed up a little bit, so like, don't worry, I've been doing this for like years now and I still mess up constantly. So don't be upset if you do too. Alright, we're going to tie it twice around these last 2 strings. When I tie bracelets, mine start to have a tendency of just flipping backwards. I don't know why that happens. I've just accepted it. You'll have weird quirks too with the way that your bracelets are coming out. Just don't worry about it. As long as you know where you are, it'll be fine. So as you can see, it's finally sort of taking a shape up there. I'm going to do a little bit of work off camera and come back. Hey guys, I'm back. So just finished doing about 3 like passes through of going orange, green, blue, orange, green, blue, orange, green, blue. So now you can sort of see what it's going to look like as you continue on with the bracelet. It's pretty simple. As you can see now, it's definitely straightened itself out from how it looked like up at the top before. And it's much easier to see the distinction between each of the strings so that you can like pull them back apart whenever you need. So I'm just going to do what I did before with the past 2, where I tie it off at the top here. Once again, you usually just do 1 knot. What's happening there? Oh, one of the blues got stuck. That's a little farther down than you'll want it to be, so probably bring it back up to here if you can. I'm just not going to worry about it. And so then, if you have excess, always cut it off about 2 inches away so that it can be tied. And that's it for 3rd year bracelets. Next video I'm going to do will be 4th year and up bracelets, and then that'll be it for all of the tutorials. So if you want to go learn how to do 4th year bracelets, go on do that. Always remember you can go back to the 1st year bracelet tutorial if you need more practice on how to just tie knots very simply. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video.